Hey everybody, Corey here, coming at you with another knife review video. This time it is of the Civivi Dogma in brass. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I try to buy a new knife every month. Don't tell my wife. So, I've been trying to avoid this for a while, but the YouTube community clearly just loves this kind of thing. We're going to start with some size comparisons. So, here it is next to the ZT-0452, which is a conventionally large knife. Here it is next to the Ontario Rat 2, which is a conventionally small knife. Now, I could probably find a smaller knife to call my small knife, but I think the Rat 2 is a pretty good representation of about the smallest most people want to go when it comes to an everyday carry knife that they actually intend to use as a tool. So you can see overall, if I actually line the ends of these up, you can see that it comes in about 1.5 inches to 2 inches shorter than the ZT, and it comes in about 1 inch larger overall than the Rat 2. So there that is for you, in case you were wondering how big this knife was. Now, let's talk about the knife. Let's talk about some things that I noticed and some things that I liked, some things that I didn't like. So we'll start with jimping. There's no jimping on the back of this blade, and it's clear that that is because they just had to put this cutout in here. With this cutout, if they were to put some more jimping right here, this would be very structurally compromised, so to speak. I'm almost 100% sure that that's why they didn't put jimping on the back of this blade, because it would just be way too thin up here. So kind of forgivable, but on the other hand, I don't know. But I'm not so sad about that, because I believe wholeheartedly that jimping is something that really comes into consideration when you're really going to town with a knife. Why do I think that you should never really be going to town with this knife? Well, do you see this tip here? Do you see how thin this tip is? We're looking at 3mm blade stock, and it's hollow ground, okay? This is not a knife that you're going to be chopping wood with. This is not a knife that you should be really digging into anything. You're allowed to do whatever you want with your knives, but the point is, it's a thin blade, it's hollow ground, it's pretty, it's going to be fragile when it comes to stabbing and prying and things like that, so probably don't do that. And for that reason, I don't really mind that there's not jimping here, because I don't intend to be going to town with this knife anyways. The next thing I'll say that kind of annoys me a little bit, and don't get too worked up about the things that annoy me, because there aren't many, the jimping on the Lockbar. Civivi and we have this thing where they like to put jimping on their lock bars so that you can get a better grip on them when you want to close the knife. Hey, that's all fine and dandy. But when you combine that with high lock bar tension, which is something that this knife has, you get into a situation where if you're someone like me who likes to fidget with their knives, and you open them and you close them over and over all day long, and you like to sit in your chair just doing this and fidgeting with the knife, this jimping combined with the high lock bar tension is going to chew at your thumb all day long, and it does not feel good. If you want to fidget with a knife, this is probably not the knife for you, unless you have a very calloused thumb. That might be okay. The other thing about that jimping, if you bear down on this knife pretty hard, it can kind of bite into your finger too. You can see right there. That being said, again, what are you doing with this knife? Okay, I get it. It's a knife. You might want to use it as a tool. It's quite thin. If you're doing any amount of work where you really need to give this thing the death grip, you might be using the wrong knife. That being said, it is a hotspot. I figured I would tell you about it. So, what else do we have going on here? In terms of ergonomics, doesn't really blow my mind, but I will say the curvature and the rounded edges make it comfortable in the hand. It is certainly not the worst knife I've ever held in my hand. It is good, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't blow my mind. You know, on a scale of 1 to 5, you would get a solid 4. It has a full forward finger choil, which if you're someone with bigger hands, or you just feel like you might need a little bit more space, or if you just like a finger choil, you have it. So there you go. If you've got even bigger hands than me and the size is an issue, you can use the finger choil. Overall ergonomics, pretty good. Again, I'd say 4 out of 5. Fit and finish in action. This is awesome. This knife is absolutely awesome. It's typical Civivi quality. I just want to go through my checklist with you guys, right? Centering, dead nuts perfect, straight out of the box. Blade play, nothing vertical, nothing horizontal. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely wonderful. Can't complain at all. The screws all over the entire knife are completely flush with the handle scales. It's not going to get caught on anything. It's typical Civivi fit and finish. You've got a deep carry pocket clip. If this was to be in my pants, you could see that is about all that you would see sticking out of my pants. That is true deep carry pocket clip. It is absolutely lovely. It is not recessed into the knife, but I believe the reason that they did that is because it's an ambidextrous knife. And if they wanted to recess the pocket clip, they'd have to cut it out on this side, and they'd have to cut it out on this side, and then you'd have a big cutout right here when you're not using it. So I think that was a conscious design decision by the Civivi team. The only things I can fault them for: one, the lockup. Lockup out of the box was about 60%. Again, I tried to fix the lockbar tension. I tried to reduce it by bending the lockbar back towards me. And I did manage to do that and get the lockup at about 50% without introducing any vertical blade play. So that was nice. However, 50% is still a little unacceptable to me. The most I ever really want to see straight out of the box is about 30%. The other thing I will say, it's kind of hard to show on camera. You're going to have to take my word for it. Take a look at this bevel. Real quick, just kind of eyeball it. Take a look at this bevel. Real quick, kind of eyeball it. This bevel is thicker than this bevel. What that means is that there is an uneven grind on either side of the blade. When I sharpen this, I already technically did, but I really only polished it, I'm going to have to remove much more material from this side until I finally get it even with this side. Otherwise, sharpening it is going to be a pain, and it's never going to cut as well as it could. That is a problem for me. However, given everything else I said with the centering and the perfect lack of blade play, I guess, this is very, very, very good. In the uneven blade grind, it's probably something that's unique to me. I do not see this on a lot of knives. I would be willing to bet I just have bad luck with this one. There's no way that they're shipping all of these out with uneven blade grinds, so I will say that. Overall fit and finish, again, I guess let's do the scale of 5. If I had to do 1 to 5, I would say 4.5 out of 5. I can't forgive the blade grind. I can't forgive the lockup. But you know what? If you told me that every knife I bought would be perfectly centered, would have no blade play, and would have the fit and finish of this knife in general. Oh, and all the edges are chamfered. I don't know if you can see that, but nothing is sharp here. Nothing's going to irritate you or get caught on your pants, anything like that. This is awesome. Don't get confused, okay? Just because the blade grind and the lockup, this is absolutely awesome. 4.5 out of 5. We'll just go with that. Value. Let's talk about value. The brass and the copper models, they sell on White Mountain knives for $68. You get 10% off. I'll put a coupon code in the description. You get brass and copper for $61. The G10 models are originally $48. 10% off, you get them for about $43. In my opinion, the short version of this is a very good deal. D2 generally is seen on the absolute lowest around $30. And typically you start to see it fade away at about the $70 price point. So to me, let's split it in the middle and call $50 for D2 as relatively fair. For this model, you're now giving me brass scales, you're giving me ceramic ball bearings, you're giving me this kind of fit and finish. So essentially, if the blade is worth $50 and the knife costs me $61, you're telling me that brass scales and the quality of the other materials here, and the fit and finish of a Civivi knife, and this awesome pocket clip, all that business only ran me about $11. That's awesome. End of story. That's absolutely awesome. Value, oh gosh, we'll do 1 to 5. Let's just do 1 to 5 for this video. Value, again, I'm going to say 4 out of 5. The reason I don't, you might have thought I was going to say higher than that. I say 4 out of 5 because while this is very, very good, it is very, very good. However, with the materials that you're getting here, I would say that the price is not mind-blowing. It's very good, but it's not something where I would say, oh my God, you have to go get that right now. It's only $61. I would say the value is as high as it is because you're getting this amazing fit and finish from Civivi. They do a great job on all the knives that I've handled of theirs. And to me, $61 for this, especially with something as flashy as brass, is absolutely awesome. You want to start talking about the G10 versions for $43? That's when I say, hell yes, go get this knife. That is absolutely an awesome deal. I would recommend that in a heartbeat. The things that I want to say, key takeaways here. There's something I didn't mention, and I was saving it for the end of the video, so hopefully you didn't leave already. The action on this knife is by far the smoothest action out of any knife in my collection of 12 knives. Maybe not a ton of knives, but one of them is a $240 ZT. This knife, at 1/4 of the price, has an infinitely smoother action. Now, it's not drop shut because of the lockbar tension. Don't confuse that with not being smooth. This part right here, this movement, there is virtually no friction when it comes to those ball bearings. When I open this knife, it is absolutely the most amazing knife I have ever flipped. It's just awesome. I need to emphasize that. I needed to point that out because the action is mind-blowing on this knife. If I had to say one thing, out of all the things that I've mentioned, my favorite thing about this knife is the overall fit and finish. That action with that centering, no blade play, a great pocket clip, all the screws are flush, the edges are chamfered. It's just a great knife when it comes to fit and finish. My least favorite thing about this knife is just that lockbar tension. Almost all of my problems are related to that lockbar in some way. It doesn't drop shut because of the lockbar. Hey, if you don't want a drop shut knife, then that's not even a problem for you. The only thing I would fault it for after that is it makes it uncomfortable to close. When you're someone like me, again, who likes to fidget with their knives, even if you're not fidgeting with your knives, it's something you think about every time you close your knife. It's like, oh, it doesn't feel nice, right? It's something you think about every single time you close your knife. So overall, great knife. Absolutely great knife. I'm not even going to go into the sex appeal of black and brass because that's totally subjective, but I think this is an absolutely beautiful knife. I think it's a knife that anyone should check out at least once. At least get your hands on it, handle it, see how you feel about it, because it is absolutely awesome, and Civivi hit it out of the park once again. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of it. I will see you guys next time.